really funny.
Cool advice. That's
No, it was hilarious.
Ironic, but it's pretty funny.
Because, let me tell you something.
Screw back just a sec.
Oh, hell.
All right, now that we're done venting.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Oh, man. Otherwise, it was a good week. Welcome to a new episode of Wisdom Wednesday. Last week was Memorial Day. Pete took some leave, and I just took it upon, and then not even taking it upon myself, but I was like, it's Memorial Day, we should reflect. And I will say, some of our leadership, they did a good job of implementing that.
That
And,
was deep.
Giving
was
their
deep,
experience, even in church, even our pastor that he gave his little testimony as far as his experience, and some of the guys. I think one of the guys that he lost.
Oh, really?
You didn't see the?
No, because I wasn't there last week.
That's right. Okay.
I'll have to go back and rewatch that.
It's worth it. It's worth it.
I stopped watching it. It was on my to-do list.
I don't remember all the premises, but he brought up some of his experience because short story was he was a recruiter, and he recruited this kid who then went to Afghanistan. He got killed in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
And he was able to. I don't remember the theme right now, but I just remember that it was good, and it was impactful. It was we sat there, and I sat there because I didn't help with production or anything. I was able to just be there for the service, and me and Ethan, we were just there, and it's oh man, we kind of forget we lucked out because we didn't have to experience that. We didn't.
Which is a good thing.
That. Right.
Which is a good thing.
Right.
We never wish
it's
to go do that.
It's we hear these stories. I think some of it, to be fair, and because I think this will be a good segue into what today's topic is. But we didn't have to experience that, but because we think so highly of these individuals that went off during GWAT, Global War on Terror, and because of the things they did and the sacrifices they made, there's some ambition to reach like that, to reach limits like them, to be pushed to limits and
yeah, we'll definitely cover this. I'm gonna put this down.
So today's episode is. We're finally going to dive into some of our military experience. Obviously, military experience, I feel is this big thing that could be anything, dealing with my past 5 years of being in the Navy. Pete's past, how long? 4 years in the Marine Corps. But we narrowed it down because even you had mentioned man, I don't know if I want to even do this topic. I'm well, we've talked about it. It was requested. We did say that we would fulfill these requests, and I don't mind doing it. So I said, well, let's find some themes and let's knock it out.
The only reason I said I was I don't want to do it. No offense to the person who requested. It was just I feel us talking about it is gonna be us come off as us bragging, even though we're not.
And that's all Pete meant, right? And that's all Pete meant. I'm no, yeah. I think we can just give some thoughts and some themes that revolve around our experience. And
this could hopefully help some of you guys in your life. You guys are going through the same exact things, just in the our different worlds. So.
Because at the end of the day, that's kind of some of the premise of doing Wisdom Wednesdays with Pete is that some of the things we've talked about, some of the things we've learned over the past 12 months, it does transfer to life. It does transition ourselves, and our mindsets, and I would like this in the future. I would like not to do this. I need to fix myself in this section. Whatever it is. So
we're writing more stuff down.
So, Pete, if you want to jump, I have 3 general topics based on some of the stuff that you have. But if you want to kick it off, and we'll get into our military experiences so far.
So,
be mindful of person the 5 W's and just specifics anything that's OPSEC and stuff like that.
Okay. Yeah. So, I would say, because one of the themes you brought was what's my favorite thing in the military. Mm-hmm. Not really why I joined, but what's the most thing I enjoy about the most. And I will by far say the training. If you guys ever played Army when you were little kids, or you're playing Manhunt at night, and you get that little adrenaline rush when someone's looking for you in the woods in the dark, or you're hunting. It also reminds me a lot of hunting. You gotta be sneaky, you gotta be patient. There's some tactics that fall into hunting, and there's a lot of hard work that goes in and scouting and recon. And so I would say training by far is my favorite thing to do. And here's the thing about training is it's kind of like weightlifting. Is you don't always want to do it, but when you're done, you're wow, that sucked, but man, was it great. And the 2 training opportunities I think were the best, or top 3, I'd say, was number 1 being the most recent field op.
Okay.
So the most recent field op we did was based around basic scouting. So like we did kind of like a sniper lane where you would like kind of like low crawl and try to find like certain objectives through like land navigation. So using like a map and compass. But the cool part was is like you got to like veg up. So I had like my ghillie blanket and I have like bungee cords I'd strap around my body and I'd stuff like a bunch of the live vegetation into my ghillie blanket. And the same thing with like my boonie cover, I was all candy painted up.
Yeah, I took a picture.
You know, if you guys saw the picture on Instagram, you already know.
So you posted on Instagram? I'll put it somewhere in the lower third or somewhere on the for like this. I'll upload it.
I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah,
please do. I like vegged up some of my rifle to like hide like the silhouette of like the rifle because it's really identifiable. And like we just had to find like recon these points without getting spotted.
Right.
So they would like send out like the officers and the staff sergeants to go and come and find us and patrol around. Your boy didn't get spotted. And so there was that. There was like an assault lane. And I was working with a Marine who is not really up to par right now on where he needs to be. So working with him was difficult, but at the end of the day, I'm glad I did it because that just, if anything, makes me a better leader. It's an opportunity. I promise you, like, I feel like whenever like Jocko, when people listen to Jocko or they read these leadership books, they get stuck in like this headspace of, oh, it's not gonna be hard. Like they just see it on paper or they hear about it and they're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do that. I can do that. And then they do it and they're like, holy crap, is this frustrating? Because they're not actually in that person's shoes when they're doing that leadership part. Like, yes, Jocko sounds very calm, cool, collected when he's writing in the book, but in the moment he's like probably a little frustrated.
Yeah.
And that's the way I was because I had to literally hold this kid's hand. And then doing like stuff at night, like that was cool. So that field op I think was pretty cool. And then take it back some years, bro.
Okay.
Pope and he was my team leader at the time. Benton and all those other guys were at schools or getting out. So it was a completely boot field op. So a boot is a new guy that comes to the fleet. We had been in the fleet, I think, for maybe 6 months, maybe 7, maybe. I don't even know about that.
Yeah, we're babies.
Babies, yeah. So we did not know our butts from the hole in the ground. And we went out and did a PEX, so it's called a patrolling exercise. And it was mainly focused around ambushes. And Pope was the squad leader for that as a Lance Corporal. And I think some of us were still PFCs at the time, I can't remember. And he had to write his first order as a Lance Corporal. And if you guys don't know, it's like an order is a long and lengthy process.
Yeah, you don't say too much detail about it, I would say. Because I feel like it goes into like some of the logistics of like how we do things.
Okay.
Yeah.
So with that, we went and did this whole like little operation by ourselves with also, yet again, like I really like the camouflage aspect, like vegging up and getting camouflage and being hidden. And we were doing this like by ourselves, like we were boots. Like there was no one there to help us. We had like our platoon sergeant and our lieutenant like grading us, like watching us, but like there was no leash. There was no collar. We were just going and that was it. Whether we messed up, whatever, like that's what was gonna happen. And so we did the ambush and we got out of there and I forgot to dummy cord my nods. Which is your night vision device, because I thought I was too good for that. I actually said to myself, I'm like, I don't need to dummy cord my nods. Like, so stupid. Because then, like, when I have to get him out, I have to, like, dummy cord means, like, you tie a piece of 550 cord.
It's a way to not lose gear, essentially,
tie a piece, you tie one end of it to your gear, and you tie another end of it to your actual piece of equipment. And I was a dumb boot. I was like, I'm too good for dummy cord. And as we were walking out of the area, we were debriefing, and Staff Sergeant was like, all right, touch all your EDL. And I went, cool, rifle. Where's the nods? And so we had a police call back through there, and they almost gave me and Pope a negative counseling for it, which would not have been cool. But we were just boots, and they understood that. So, and then Staff Sergeant Gonzalez decided to tell us a story about them losing a pair of nods in Afghanistan, and they had to low crawl around for it at night in an IED-laden field. Which is ridiculous, but whatever. So that, and then I say our third and most, one of the best ones too, I can't really decide on these ones,
Okay.
was the infantry immersion trainer.
Oh yeah.
That was
Yeah.
really fun. It was basically...
That was an interesting one. We'll have to do that one probably pretty secret as far as details. I don't know what you want to say about it, but
Basically, we were thrown into an environment with paid actors and with like civilians, like actors, but then there was also enemy with like blanks in their weapons, and we had blanks in our weapons.
it was as real as they could make it as far as training and not
Oh, super real.
you know getting us into like a mindset of like, okay, we're not at home anymore.
Yeah. Oh, it was pretty realistic, man.
It was good. No, it was good.
I don't think I've had such an adrenaline rush in my life.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think training by far, because, and not just because the training's fun, it's the adrenaline rush, but also you're there with your boys, and you're just doing cool guy stuff.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
like,
I don't agree with that.
You know, like, I don't know. That's the way it feels to me, at least.
Yeah.
What's your favorite experience?
I'm trying. Well, so I saw like more switch. I didn't know exactly how you were, because you said hey, these are very big notes. I'm gonna dive into the details. So I put why I joined, and I put a separate one will be like, from my experience, it was going to trauma training. I've talked about this a bunch because I got sent to Chicago for 7 weeks, and being in medical, the point was to get actual hands-on experience. And if you watch the news in any capacity, whether it's Chicago, Detroit, LA, New York, like all these big cities, all these big hubs, a lot of various types of violence. And so I got to go to Cook County Trauma Center, downtown Chicago, and got to experience and get my hands on actual patients. And so that's probably my favorite training as far as medical field. My experiences with the Marine Corps, being tied with you guys, especially leading up to deployment, the whole thing it wasn't eye-opening, but I'm glad I got to experience it at the very least. Everything, and again, I remember from when I checked in, over 2 years ago, to finally getting back, and now I'm like, okay, time to move on with life. Like that's how I feel, right? That's how I feel. That's how I felt. But for me, my favorite experience was being over there for 7 weeks, and like they're pulling. I forgot the pool was like. Let's just say over like 50 people that were okay. These are the 50 names that could go to Chicago for this thing, and they only chose 16 of us. So like it was a pool that got like filtered out.
Tier 1.
It was a pool that filtered out, and then they chose 16 of us from all over, like not just the West Coast, not just the East Coast. Like it was corpsmen, but it was from various commands all around the U.S. Anyways, and that was interesting because again, the way I've said this on the episodes before already, where it's like when I'm teaching Marines or if we're teaching Marines, especially like me and a few of the guys that have been in ER situations and trauma situations, people were where we are with doctors and like doing the thing, right? I can only explain that to Pete. I can't show Pete what that looks like until it actually happens.
Yep.
And so it's like trying to remind Marines, like, hey, dude, like this is actually kind of important. And I never feel like, especially because like we also have a relationship, so it's different. You will listen to me, and I will listen to you.
Yeah.
When you have a new Marine or you have an older Marine that has experience from Afghan or Iraq or wherever, they do have their hunts, so like they've seen things. But since then, so many things have changed. Like so many things have changed. The way we do medicine, the way we think about things, the way like the processes, right? But anyways, that was probably my favorite training experience. Is that number one experience though is COVID. That was interesting because of the timing of when I joined in 2019, COVID literally was a little over a year, or just under a year later, because I joined like May 2019. And so March 2020 was when COVID hit. I had just gone to the hospital at Pendleton, and now the world shut down, right? It's like, and for 6 months, I was doing this thing with my buddy. He was basically like, we'll say the LPO, and I was let's say ALPO, but I was more like a washboard coordinator, but I'm an E3. So it's like an E4 and E3 doing these things to make sure that our part of taking care of the hospital was done. Like we were doing ECP
So you
stuff.
really enjoyed the task
Well,
of this whole thing.
it's the story, dude. Like COVID code, whether you believe in it, and it don't matter if you believe in code or not or whatever, but like I don't care because we don't care about the politics, but the experience that the world shut down, but like our work never stopped. Being in the medical field, like, and for me, that was my intro. My intro was this thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The world shutting down, hospitals having to do all these precautions because, I say allegedly because we didn't know better. We didn't have any stats yet. It was brand new.
Yeah.
Allegedly, people were dying from this thing, and it's like, okay, like who's next? Like who's gonna be the one?
Yeah.
You know, like, you know, is that next patient coming in? You know, like what are they in here for? You know, whatever.
Yeah.
And so all these like new procedures and ways of doing things just changed. So seeing that evolution that COVID caused, that was like, again, for me, it's the story. Because it's another thing. I can only tell you how it was. I can't show you 100 hours a week for months of like just trying, because things were changing every day. New stats, finally stats started coming in. Oh, you should pre-do this and that.
Results,
doctors are having to relearn stuff they've been doing for, or whatever the medicines told them. It's like, okay, well, this is like nuanced or whatever, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
Many various things. But yeah, it's the evolution and the changes that I saw firsthand, even though I didn't know anything. I mean, I didn't know anything. I was less than a boot because I had just come out of I had this training, but like before the military, I had no medical experience. You know? So again, it's for me, it's more of the story of what COVID was and what it's developed into now. It's way different, but that's a big marker. Like that's a big marker for me as far as experiences, and like that's number one. Trauma training, cool. I was in Chicago. I got to get my hands on and like open up my scope and my vision as far as like medicine goes. But just being in a hospital during COVID is like, oh, like these are different. And military hospital at that, not just a civilian hospital.
Oh yeah.
For them, their precautions were, even when I went to Chicago in 21. They were still doing a lot of COVID precautions. They still had a lot of COVID things. Yeah. I mean, dude, if you look at,
well, yeah, I guess it like, still was a thing in the fleet. Yeah. We still had to wear masks to the PX.
Yeah. Like that's what I'm saying. Like up until then, like when I got here in 22, that's when things started really laying off. Like I'm like, oh, okay. Like I had never experienced that because I came from California. California was still locked down till like 23. End of 22, 23. You know what I mean? So like, I was in that state, and then now I was here, and it's like, oh, dude, this is like way different. Even going to Texas gave me a little bit of anxiety because there was even less restrictions there because it's like, no, like we're just gonna let it, you know, if you're gonna survive, you're gonna survive. That's it. You know, it's a wild, wild west. It turned into a wild, wild west again. But we can move on. But that's what I got as far as my experiences, trauma, training, and whatnot. What else you got?
All right. So you said in the text leadership experiences. We've not had a whole lot of good Marines, I feel like, to really lead. So I'm going to be completely honest here. All the Marines in my team, not once have I ever had, so far, because we're getting new boots soon, and we have a few guys who are willing to learn, as far as I can tell. We're never willing to learn, and they really didn't take the job seriously, and they didn't really respect authority. From what you know this because you were in the platoon.
Yep.
But here's what I will say, and this isn't really a brag story. This is more of a look at how bad of a leader I am story. So when I first became a fire team leader, I was more of follow me, fighter leader concept. So fighter leader concept in the Marine Corps is, if all else fails, I'm going to get up and lead you because obviously something has gone wrong and we need to like push this fight.
Yeah.
So I'm going to get up and lead the charge, right? Instead of sitting back command and controlling like I should be, employing assets, I was like, yeah, no, I'm not doing that. And mainly because I had the mindset of, if these guys see what I'm doing, they should just follow me. They should just know what to do, right? And that really frustrated me because that's what I did as a boot. When I hit the fleet, I saw my seniors doing PCCs on themselves, pre-combat checks. I'm like, I should do that. So when someone comes up and looks at me and they're checking out my gear, I can be like, hey, Corporal, Corporal, I'm all good to go. My gear's squared away. Cool, Reasoner, moves on to the next guy. Hey, I trust Reasoner because he did PCCs on himself before I even got to him, you know, or I was studying by myself, whatever I could do to improve, PTing by myself.
Right.
And so I remember the first time that we had an NCO promotion thing, I was on it, I was ready to get on it, and I was non-rec, and I admitted it on the promotion board because I said I am too busy trying to just like lead the team like by myself. Like I'm not employing my guys.
Right.
You
Okay.
know? And our old lieutenant told me this off to the side. I don't know if I ever told you this. He said to me, he goes, "Do you understand why we're doing this, right?" He's like, I think you're a great Marine. I think you have great individual skills. I think you're one of the best Marines we have. But here's the thing, is if I were to take a hill and I told your team to take the hill, I would just send you. because I feel like you would have a harder time just leading your team up the hill versus then you just employing yourself and taking out the enemy by yourself, you know? And which was funny. At the time I thought I was cool for it. I was like, yeah.
I can do
take
that.
Out the enemy
I can
by
do this.
myself.
Yeah, I can do
That's
it.
so stupid. So, but like at the same time, I was like, okay, message received.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I definitely think I've grown from it a lot.
And is this a non-rec from Lance to Corporal?
Yes,
Okay.
from Lance Corporal. I'm a corporal now though,
Right.
because I got recommended and I passed. Because they saw like major improvements of me actually like, because
It's the first step. This is also a big picture. This is one of those life things, right? Where you get to a certain point in the company, you get to a certain point in your military experience where, and I've seen it. This is the cool part that I've been able to, because I'm not a Marine.
Yeah.
I get to see this evolution happen between y'all, right?
Yeah.
And the point is, at some point when you have, even if it's 2 or 3 people under you, it doesn't matter. If you have one person, I've worked with a single other person and we were the team.
Yeah.
And we had to like just do the things and make it work, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if it's 2 people, it doesn't matter if it's 4 people. But at some point when you are put in that position though, you have to find, okay, what do I have? What is this person good at? What is this person good at? What is this person good at?
Yeah.
And then that's the point, is like employing those systems, those people to make the bigger picture work.
yeah, and not only that, but it was to expand upon what you just said, that although you have to take extreme ownership and be in charge, and this is the thing I have to always have to remind our one good buddy who lives next door to me, is your team has to have willpower. And if that person doesn't have any willpower and they do not want to get better, good luck.
Yeah,
Because those were all the Marines. I kid you, it was so sad to see. It was so sad to see. Not once did I run into any Marines in that peer group. Like there was Marines in other platoons that were like that, but not once did I run into a Marine in that peer group that was just super hungry. Like when I'm not playing the generational game of back in my corps.
We could say like give a quick Jocko story he's told a while back, but he has brought up several times where Vietnam, the draft, you have these draftees that some they did their job, and there's some that they got drafted. They didn't have a choice, and they literally didn't have a choice. So like his thing was like how can you convince that person to like take some type of initiative, something, so just to some backbone for you is like you don't have to play a generational game because it's been a thing. It's just trying to figure out like how we can make that work.
Yeah, it's just I feel like when I showed up, like me and a lot of my peers, not saying that the peers I'm talking about didn't do this, but like you said, you have your odds and ends, right?
Yeah.
So I think, and the other thing that I'm now noticing is that now that I'm soon to be a squad leader possibly, and I kid you not, I have 6 guys on my team right now. I am in charge of 6 guys. Some of them are senior, of course, so I don't really have to worry about them as much.
Right.
But like one guy's on leave, so I have one of his boots and a bunch of other stuff, and there's this other guy who just showed up. And the one thing that I'm noticing now is I don't have a whole lot of time to keep myself sharp. So I really have to start like really nitpicking the time and what I'm going to look at studying wise or reading wise, whatever, to get better.
Because you have to optimize for the team now.
Yes. Yeah. And not that I never couldn't optimize for the team, but I have so many guys right now that I am mentoring. So like in the Marine Corps, like I'm currently a mentor because our platoon is not at its normal operating size. We are very, very small because of people getting out, doing their own thing, whatever, right? So I am in charge of a lot of people, and I have to teach them a lot because they are not really tracking on what is going on in the infantry and what they have to know. So I have to take a little more time, which I'm not complaining about.
Yeah.
Right? Because that is just, I have the opportunity to go ahead and do that, and I love doing it. I love teaching. I love making Marines. And the good thing about getting boots is you can make them the way you want.
Yeah.
And as a fire team leader, I couldn't really do that with some of those guys. But now, like, that I have a squad, I can set in my own, like, expectations for the squad and things like that. So I think that was, like, from the leadership aspect, going from fighter leader, you still utilize fighter leader concept in everything you do. In terms of that, like, don't ever make someone do what you're not willing to do. That's one of the leadership points you can take from this. To an extent, right? To an extent, like, some of the new guys, they're gonna get theirs.
Yeah.
Yeah, like they're gonna learn. You know,
they're gonna learn
because they have to. Because when you go to boot camp, you haven't made it.
Yeah.
When you get through boot camp, the mindset is you still haven't made it. The mindset when you go through ITB, Infantry Training Battalion, you still haven't made it. When you hit the fleet, you still haven't made it. It's the same thing, but people think they make it. That's the thing.
Yeah.
In Special Forces, they do the same thing. Yeah. You show up to the team.
Yeah, it's not just conventional forces.
You're still a boot when you're in Special Forces, depending on the team you go to, because you haven't made it yet. So humble yourself, no matter where you are in your training pipeline or your career or whatever that is. Always show up and always work hard, because working hard creates opportunities. You know, and it's just the right thing to do. Did you have something else that you wanted to add in before we moved on?
I had a thought about because what I was just going to add for me was so the same thing happens in the medical field, we'll say, because now I'm in a situation age-wise where I'm older than some of my leaders, and it's fine, like, because what I take from that is I do feed off the energy, because like my mindset is over here doing this and that, but having a leader's like cool, like. Because the way I think about it now is like, I was in retail and I was in civilian industries for the first 10 years before I even joined, right? And so to come in the military and have leaders younger than me that are fresh out of college or fresh out of whatever, and seeing like their ambition and like their vision for whatever our goals are, it's been pretty cool to see. But it happens the same way where a person goes from one hospital to the next hospital and they think they've made it. I'm like, dude, I don't know you. Yeah. Like, because there's one person particularly that I can recall, and they weren't a bad person at all. And most people aren't bad people. I always say that. Like, I do believe that there's good in pretty much in most people, right? But when it comes to work experience and so on and so forth, and going to what people are saying, where it's like, you go through these levels and you like advance your knowledge, you advance your skill, whatever it is, but you haven't made it. So my point is just that it's the same thing in the Navy. And I'm like, dude, you're like 23 years old, bro. I'm 10 years older than you. Like, you know, like I promise you, like, you have so much to learn, but I only know that because of what I thought I knew. And then when I starting to change the questions that I'm asking, starting to change my mindset. It took time. It took years. Obviously, it took years. And I've told you this, and that's why we talk about life a lot. It's because it's taking me all this time, especially when you find, because there's a couple times that I remember on the boat where I gave you, well, this is my experience. And you're like, man, like, I want this. Like, I want the same outcome that you have. I'm like, bro, it's taking me 10 years, bro. Like, it's taking me a while. It's just like, and that's why I encourage, especially from young leaders that have opportunities to be in these seats and these positions where it's like, allow yourself to become more patient. Allow yourself to detach and see. Because like now, well, like, okay, pre-deployment. Here's an example. I'm running with you guys with the platoon, but I also have the certain certification that makes me have to see things at a 1,000.
Stinky poo.
So seeing things at a 1,000 person level and higher, what was going on at the platoon level was no longer part of my scope of things that needed to be done in the week. Because then there's one time where our set LT, he FaceTimed me. It was like 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm already on the computer with my buddy.
Yeah, never forget this.
With my buddy, and we're hacking away because I'm like, hey, dude, come in this time because at this time, dude, like between me and a couple of the guys, I mean, we're there for 12 hours a day.
Yeah.
And I'm doing nothing with what I had started with at the beginning, because now the Navy side of things, there were some bigger picture things that needed to get done. And so delegation started happening, and I didn't volunteer for this thing. I was given this thing to, hey, you need to do this. I said, okay, cool. And so it was funny seeing that. And so that phone call, and whoever called me, they called me first, and then like, hold on, he wants to talk to you. I said, okay, okay, cool. Like, at that time, I had no reason to lie. I had no time to not be working. I literally had no time to not be working, right? And so he's like, no, you're not. Like, you're not at work. I'm like, I am. He's like, FaceTime me. I said, cool.
I'm in the BAS.
And I did. And I said, hey, I'm here. And my buddy's next to me, and I'm like, here. Like, I've been here since, I think it's like 6:15 by this time.
And he's a kid compared to you. He's a kid compared to you, too.
And I'm like, because let's say it was like 6:30 in the morning, right? I've been there since 5:45. I've been up since 4:45, like to get myself mentally ready to go do this thing and be there for 12 hours on this, helping people. Anyways, those are things that are funny, and most times I never took it personal, because it's like, okay, but here I'm actually not lying to you. Here you go, here you go. Like, it's whatever. But that's a funny story that I'll keep for me, because like. It's like, I like the motivation, but I have bigger things. I actually have bigger things to take care of.
Yeah.
Like, I know this is your
I know
job.
You want me there at formation, even though I'm 35 years old and like
it's
more
like
mature than
it's
you,
like I know this is like your scope of like work that needs to get done.
Yeah.
My scope is like that times 4 times 4.
Yeah.
Right. Just big picture, and it was interesting, but I've gained a lot too, because if it weren't for being part of the platoon and going to deployment, and like some of the personal conversations I got to have with said LT, I was like, okay, cool. Like, he's either learned or I've learned something from him.
He learned a lot.
Just his point, like, because he'd tell me his point of view on certain things, or hey, you're getting out right. I'm like, yeah, and he would like talk to me about certain things. I'm like, I never thought about it like that. I'm like, yeah, let me look into that.
Yeah, because you're being humble and you're being open.
Yeah.
And even though someone's a little bit younger than you, or a little bit inexperienced, you're still taking that perspective into account.
Some of it was like, just come talk to me. Because military likes to like sometimes, and I don't think it's on purpose. I don't think it's on purpose. It's just the way they were groomed, especially older military members. They were groomed to talk down on you until you like prove yourself, until you do the thing, until you're a part of this thing.
I feel like that has gotten rid of.
It's gotten better.
It's gotten better.
But I think when you, because again, my experience, and I've never gone but like talk with me, don't talk like to me, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because it happens, and because I'm in a leadership position, I'm in charge of these people. I'm like, dude, like I take care of like 1,200 people. Like what, like if you want to compare, we can do that. I don't want to do that, because what I'm doing, you don't need to worry about it, because I'm gonna take care of it. You know what I mean? But there was just certain circumstances, certain times where it's like, dude, like it's like I'm taking care of it. Like it's fine. You know, like
the
and eventually,
and
come because I mean, then I got separated. I got put on the separate tasker, right? Once we've gone deployment, right? So all that then just took me away from what was normal, anyways.
Yeah.
So all the things we had been working up to, you know, like it just changed for me. So it's like, okay, you know, here you go,
Yeah.
relearning, I'm trying to think of like. Yes, but like having to meet new people, like because you know everything that we have to do,
Different
and
command.
yeah, exactly, just different command and so on and so forth. Anyways, all that's to say, I forgot how we got how I went.
I don't even know either, dude. You were.
Because we were talking about leadership styles, and I think that's what it was, like primarily just leadership styles, and like that my evolution to what I've seen leadership wise.
Yeah.
I think that's what it was.
Okay.
We'll go from there. And it's not even the point that I was gonna say about what I learned about leadership.
So, some things here. Some of my favorite things about the military and what I find really authentic about it. My first one being, your boy needs tasks. Your boy needs expectations, and that is one thing the military is super, super specific about. There's very high demand, high expectations, and there's a team aspect. And I feel as if I've done that pretty well. I don't want to do anything to discredit the team. When I go out on the weekends, we had to write that paper, remember, on ship. I'm like, do you consider yourself a professional?
I don't think I have to do that.
Yeah.
But you guys
well, I
probably
wrote
do.
that. I wrote down on the paper. I said yes, and I named a couple reasons. Try not to like brag.
Yeah, you don't want to. You're not trying to be boastful, but
I was just being
you're answering
honest.
the question.
Yeah, but the one thing I think about, I'm like, how can I not get in trouble on the weekend? I really don't think a lot of people really think about that.
I agree. I could go on a rabbit hole down this too. Yeah,
because plenty of people do get in trouble on the weekends.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why we had that formation this week. But so the high demands, and it's not just like getting out of trouble and things like that, but it's like you got to prove yourself. You have to prove yourself when you're here. And doing the hard games this week, like the Mogadishu Mile and like ground fighting people and like just platoon PTs, whatever it is, like you have to prove yourself. And I love, to an extent, having to prove myself at times. I think it's a challenge, and it really, like, it's demanding of you. It's not asking, I demand this of you.
Like I will say, because I don't want to go too far down a tangent again, but the last full platoon PT we did, which was the big run we did, like all that stuff.
Oh yeah.
Like I felt proud because for that one, like it's the best I felt in that circumstance. Because at the beginning, pre-deployment, I was dying, right? Like I was dying, and this one I'm like, let's go, like pick up the thing, like let's go. Like I don't want to lose.
Yeah.
So I'm just reinforcing that because that's what I think of when you say stuff like that. It's like, the progress that I got to make. And it's not to be boastful, but it's to be like, no, like this stuff's not easy, and I'm already like trying to just play catch up most of the time. And that was, and to close out like that, like I feel like that was my closing marker with like as we were as a group, where like I felt happy about it. I didn't feel proud.
Yeah.
I actually didn't feel proud, but I'm like, cool. Like these are the boys. Like this is the boys. This is the crew.
Yeah.
This is a crew that we can talk about years from now.
And
that,
things, and people we did hard stuff with.
2023, 2024, it's like this is what we did, and these are the guys we did it with.
Yeah.
Like I'm happy about that. It makes me happy.
And those times sometimes sucked a little bit.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you were glad you did them,
Yeah.
right? And that's going to tie into my next piece here, the one thing that I really enjoy about the military, especially the infantry. I'm not saying if you're not in the infantry, you won't experience this, but the little things. And my friends know I am simple. Like back home, like I was doing something, and my one buddy who's in the Coast Guard was like, "Pete's just such a simple guy. He just loves the simple things in life." And I do. I truly do. Like my room, although I keep it clean, neat, and organized, it ain't the best looking room in the world. But a lot of people would come walking into our rooms and be like, "This is a little odd." But hey, I love my room. It's super basic. It's super simple. When we're in the field and we're stanky and we hurt and we're hurting and we're sweaty and there's bugs and there's more stank, there's just like exhaustion and all this other stuff, and there's physical pain, and there's like mental just strain from you just like having to lead guys and get frustrated, whatever.
Right.
When you come back, man, like that fresh set of clothes you put on, ooh, like dude, that shower, ooh, like not eating an MRE, like all those things. And I'm not saying like, ooh, boo-hoo, feel bad for us. No,
Yeah,
I love training. I love going out to the field. The only thing I don't like about going out to the field is I can't weight lift. But
dude, I mean, I feel like it's like you still get pretty like bothered by it, but like you before, like you would get so, like, I can't lift and I have to eat and I don't have enough calories. I was like, oh.
yeah, now I've just accepted it. Now I've really just accepted it because I'm tired of. Because the one thing about Condition Havoc is like, yes, I'm focused on setting conditions, but the one thing I'm trying to focus more on is not all the conditions are going to be set.
Yeah.
You know? So like, stop making excuses on why you can't do this. Like now I've started like taking creatine to the field to still help keep weight on.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah. Because I still drink a lot of water in the field.
Yeah.
You know, as long as we're not doing like patrolling exercise where there's like different
just little spaces, breaks times.
Yeah. Versus like an actual like what we did last time, like just a regular effects, because the water, like they'll have like water jugs and water bowls right there. So, but yeah, so the little things, it's just gonna make you appreciate things so much more when you get out.
Yeah.
And I can't get enough of that because, like, if I go to the state police, I have no doubt it's gonna be hard. But think about this: am I gonna have to? My brother said this to me once. He goes, "I bet you can't wait till you get out because you're gonna blow up." Because you're gonna get so much bigger, you're gonna get so much stronger. Because you're not gonna be going to the field, you'll be eating trashed MREs. I'm like, I sat there and I listened to that. He goes, you're not gonna have to wake up at 04 and like do some stupid ruck run and this is that, and then ground fight people. I'm like, but listen, man, like, isn't that like what's gonna make it like that much better?
Yeah.
And he doesn't really understand that from my perspective. He probably thinks I'm a little weird for it, but from my perspective, right, getting up at 04 in the morning, going and doing that 4-mile ruck run, even though it's not very optimal at all for your body
it's
or
actually not
your
healthy at all.
muscle growth or recovery, right? We go and do that ruck run, and then we go do a double O course, and then after the double O course, we do ground fighting, right? When I'm in the state police, I'm not gonna have to do that. And I'm not saying I don't want that to end because I still want to make things hard. And I'm a huge believer, guys, any of you guys who are listening or watching, you should be doing something during the week that you actually hate. Do you actually hate? I hate cardio and I hate stretching, but I do it a lot and I have to do it. And I'm really glad God has given me the discipline to do that because that's something I wasn't too great about in the past, but now I'm pretty decent at it. So the little things is a huge, huge thing for me. I can't express that enough. In the team, like I said before, I tied in the expectations with getting in trouble on the weekend and being in shape, being technically and tactically proficient, but the team, because at the end of the day, yeah, you want to do it for yourself and your career a little bit, but you're also doing it because you have something bigger, right? If we do a T-Triple-C lane, yeah, I'm worried about passing the T-Triple-C lane, but if Andy's standing there, I don't want to let Andy down. He's taught me about T-Triple-C a bunch. Yeah. Why would I want to let him down when we go and run this lane together? That would be super, embarrassing and just super unprofessional, Or when we run a range, I want to make sure I have good communication with the guy next door with me, because he's not just my friend, but he's my squad leader. I want to make sure that we're successful.
Right.
And the certain things, like you said, that we've went together as a team and on the deployment and those crappy things we had to do. I'm not saying we went to war or anything, but there were still some crappy things we had to do. That was the team aspect of it. You were with it. You were in with it with somebody. Yeah. And I can't express it enough, man. There's just a close bond. So there was even though we didn't go to war, there was just still a stupid close bond with a team in the military, a squad, a platoon, a fire team. You're always gonna have guys that dislike each other, okay, 100%. But I can't explain it, man. There's just something different.
So so as we close up today's episode, because this is what I actually wanted to end kind of on this this moment, this theme, because when it comes to authenticity, what I was gonna say is now I understand the stories I've heard that I read about from World War II, from Vietnam, from GWAT, early GWAT, all this stuff, and the friends, the camaraderie that was created in these guys because they endured hard things and they lost their friends
ridiculously hard.
And all these crazy things that you actually cannot imagine. It's hard to imagine even Chicago, being in Chicago for 7 weeks, that was crazy. Just the things that happened. But the authenticity, I would have never met the people I met without have joined. I truly believe that, and that's why I can get out in peace. I'm good. I think I've mentioned this to you vaguely, but I have nothing more to prove that would mean anything. You know what I mean? I did the thing. I met a bunch of cool people. I made a bunch of friends. We did this thing. We were asked to do these taskers over deployment, and we did them as best we could because it was
That's
not
the
a
way it
random.
was.
Yeah, so it wasn't at random, but it was all causal. It was all reacting, right? It was all reacting.
Kinetic.
Yeah, exactly. It was just very fluid as well. But nonetheless, I joined. So let me give that the point of why this ties in is when I was a musician and I realized I didn't want to do that anymore. And what was I gonna do next? I had no idea. I'm well, I knew that I didn't want to be 40 and not have joined the military. I knew that I didn't want to be 40 and be that person that said, and this is just me, because I've heard it from friends and family, and this is no offense to anybody, but for me, because it goes back to discipline, it goes, not even discipline, it goes back to what I wanted. I didn't want to come out of my mouth, oh, I would have joined, but.
Oh, I hate that. I really do.
And I knew at the very least, bro, I'll have to, I don't want to tell this, because it's very personal to me as far as the story that led me into joining. And I'd probably tell you one-on-one, but I'm not gonna say it here on for the internet to hear. But nonetheless, I knew at that time, at the very least, I'm well, let me join. Let me try. What if I don't even get accepted? I don't know what the process is. I don't know what I need to do. What if I didn't make it because of anything.
Yeah.
I don't know how the military works. I don't know how this process works. Let me just go talk to a recruiter. And it went from there, right? Because being in jiu-jitsu, got to meet a lot of veterans that were coming back. Because I was in jiu-jitsu like 2013, 2014-ish. Like close to 2014, I think it was around that time. Anyways, so all these veterans that are coming back now, they're getting out. They're but getting to interact with these people, I'm like, man, like that's different. And
It's authentic, yes.
And even them talking to me, they like, because I went and rolled with them, 3-4 times a week. It was like, okay, cool, yeah, dude, like, yeah, come on, hey, you're gonna come on, are you gonna come to the veteran? Like, they invited me to even like the Veterans Day parade, one of those years, and like I
feel
felt
like a part of
honored,
the team.
right? And they all did. I'm like, man, like, and actually some of them, I don't even know like their history. Like, I don't know where exactly they were at, but we can obviously assume they were in Afghanistan and Iraq, right?
Yeah.
But they were just welcoming and they were cool, and they're like, oh yeah, okay, cool, here, and hey, you lead the stretches today. Hey, you
that
do this
kind of
today.
stuff makes you into a better man. I remember on the Jocko podcast, I forget who he had on. It was a World War II vet, and we haven't been to war, and I keep reiterating that because I don't want to make it sound like we were, because the guys who went there have so much more honor and experiences than we did. Yeah. It's very different. And so, but he had a guy on, and he said he was a World War II vet, and he lived through multiple of the invasions of Europe and parts of Europe, and he goes, war made me into a better man. And I'm like, man, that's a perspective right there, And man, like you said, the people, man.
Yeah.
Some of the best people, I swear.
Some of the expressions that he's done on here, some of the things that we've talked about, like we, without being here, we wouldn't have been able to experience that.
And
meet these people and so on and so forth.
The best leadership you're ever going to experience, and I kid you not, you will ever experience, is the military.
Yeah.
And the best just mindset I think you will ever experience is in the military. Yeah. That might be biased a little bit, right? But I'm telling you, man, like our command cares.
Yeah.
There are some units whose command might act like it.
We've talked about this on the medical side too, where this is their first command. Like one of our leaders, he left now, he went to a different command, but he said on his like going away party and stuff, he's like, I feel like we almost did a disservice because he's like, I promise, he's been in almost 20 years. He's like, I promise you, with every ounce of experience he has, he's like, you'll never get the experience that we all got to experience here.
Dude.
Ever.
Our unit.
And for that to come to him, mind you, this man he's a decorated active duty personnel.
Yeah.
Like, and for him to know, I saw that because I'm like, man, as people started leaving from medical, as people started leaving from our platoon, and so on, I was like, man, like this is unique, and I knew that. But again, for him was the affirmation for me that like my thought was on the right direction at least. Where he's like you'll never. He's like, you guys that are gonna move on to the next one because this is your first command, so on and so forth. However it works for your career, you'll never experience what you guys experience. I'm like, man, that's heavy.
That is.
That's big.
Yeah,
that's a big deal.
And
that's the thing we can't. Going back to one of the main things for today, I can't show you until you're here or there or wherever. We can tell you these experiences. We can bring these stories, and I enjoy this a lot, actually. But there will be a disconnect because there's a screen here, right? There's this thing where we're bringing these experiences, but in whatever you end up doing with your life, whatever choice you make, and it doesn't have to be the military. Like it actually doesn't.
No.
But what we can argue and what we will argue because we've gotten to experience is like the authenticity of people, regardless. At least because even the ones that
realness.
Let's say even if we disagree, we don't like their personality, but at least they were real. At least they are real.
At least they're real, and we still have to respect them to a certain point, and that they might be good at their job.
Yeah.
And that their job can save us.
Yeah.
Save our lives.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yep.
And so one thing that I'll leave off on here really quick is if you guys haven't, start reading a few war books. Start reading a few war books to maybe, if you're interested in the military or maybe you want to gain a little more understanding about what we're talking about, like, and some references, like, you can look at those. And I'm telling you, nothing makes me appreciate life more, like, than going out to the field. Yeah, it makes me appreciate life, like the little things. Mm-hmm. But nothing will actually make you appreciate life more than reading, like a war novel about a personal first-hand account of someone at war, whether it was Afghanistan, Vietnam, whatever it was, there taking lives, saving lives, and watching, unfortunately, friendly civilians and their brothers in arms die next to them. And that humbles you ridiculously. Absolutely ridiculously.
I need to reread it because I don't remember all of it. I remember one particular story, but I'm not going to say it. But the book I'd recommend, if you wanted a good perspective on a helicopter leader, as said by David Hackworth. So Colonel David Hackworth wrote About Face as well, but he has this book called Steal My Soldiers' Hearts. And I don't remember what level, what rank he was during this book, but he talks about one of his leaders, because the head shed would use helicopters and they would just hover over the battle space, but they'd never come down. And so basically he compared like his good leaders to that, where they were there because they had to be, but then they would come down and like talk to the soldiers, talk to the boys when they could. But then you had the other ones. You had the other ones that they were just hovered above the whole time, and then they were just calling over the radio, trying to micromanage what was going on in the
when they're not actually on the ground.
Exactly.
Yep.
And so, anyways, that would be my recommendation: is Steal My Soldiers' Hearts. STEEL. So like steel, like the material, like the fabricate, like Steal My Soldiers' Hearts. That's the book that, even though I don't remember all the things, but I remember that particular story. But that was the one where it's like, oh, like they cared about each other. You know, like it's about the boys. I still didn't know what that means until now.
Yep.
And so that's the closest I can bring you is Steal My Soldiers' Hearts by Colonel David Hackworth.
Yeah, I really like that. That was a good book suggestion, dude. I'll have to read that myself. I don't think
It's a good one. I have it back. I don't have it here. I have it back home. 'Cause I read it like probably back in like 2016. I guess it's been a hot minute since I read it. Yeah, it's been a hot minute since I read it. But yeah. Any closing thoughts? I'm ready to get out of here. I'm ready to wrap this up, and I think hopefully you got some. Hopefully we gave you some just perspective on our experiences.
Yeah.
Again, experience is like this just big thing that I'm like, how can we narrow it down to where it'll bring you some type of value, or at least feed your curiosity some, to where like, okay, just gives you an idea of like what Pete and Andy do, or what we've done, what we've gotten to do so far. Outside of that, I'm good. Do you have any last closing thoughts, remarks?
Chilling, dude. That was good.
We'll see y'all soon. I want to say next week, but again, we're so we're getting back to that fluid state, and I'm not gonna promise you, but we're gonna keep recording as we are able to. Period. Yep. All right. See ya.
I think I should like describe the infantry a little bit, but I think if you haven't figured that out yet, you have to. I'm not gonna lie to you. I need to. I have my sleep. Honestly, I really don't like